Hi everybody, this is A.R.S.E, a Random Standard Explains. We're going to do a quick update on 3i Atlas, and then I want to do something a little different than the forensic mythology series I've been working on. I want to talk about some physics, but first, the update on 3i Atlas. Um, so, it's changed colors 3 times since it's been observed in July. So it was red, then green before perihelion, which was on October 29th, and then now it's blue. So it's changed color 3 times. There's been the jet thing that I talked about in the last video. There's 7 jets out of what's left of 3i Atlas, and I say what's left because interestingly enough, it seems to have exploded or shattered, and now there's anywhere from a range of 7 pieces to millions of pieces. In one image that I seen, it seemed like there was like a plume of debris that was being pushed by the solar wind, and in other images it looked like there was still a few pieces anywhere. The estimates, like I said, are pretty wild, from 7 to millions. But at the core of 3i Atlas, there appears to be anywhere from 7 to 12 different pieces that are either still together or traveling really close together. The largest piece is about half the size of the original estimate of 3i Atlas, which was the Isle of Manhattan. So about half of that is left in the core. There seem to be smaller pieces following it. The jets are still active. There's now a tail, again, which is pointing in the wrong direction than what a normal comet tail would be pointing. And it's changing colors. I think that's about it. The non-gravitational acceleration might be explained by the loss of mass. So that could be just a natural reaction to it losing more than half its mass as it passes the sun. Okay, real quick. The millions of shards, pieces that are being pushed by the solar wind, that might be a problem in the future, maybe, depending on where at on the galactic plane they end up going. But when I was first researching 3i Atlas, I found a report by this lady, I think she was English, where she found accounts in Egyptian records of metal raining from the sky, which might be something similar that might happen with this debris cloud that seems to have come from 3i Atlas losing half its mass. Okay, so enough about that. We'll find out more in a couple of weeks. Like I said, early December it'll start being visible by telescope. Oh, sorry. Borisov 2025 is going to be visible in about an hour. It's 3 o'clock in the morning right now. I stayed up to do this. So in about an hour or two, it'll be visible in the constellation of Virgo. Binoculars should be enough, telescopes, and the like. And yeah, naked eye more than likely you won't be able to see it. It's not bright enough, and it's too far away. But what I read earlier said even regular binoculars, you should be able to pick it up in the constellation of Virgo. So that'll be in about 2 hours or so. Okay. Now, so I want to talk about the many worlds theory. I want to do this without notes because this is something I've been thinking about for a while, and I just want to get it out. Okay. So, the many worlds theory is the current physics model that's in, I guess, the most popular. It's kind of replaced what was known as string theory, which is an explanation of how the universe works on a quantum level. So the many worlds theory says that there's every action. Okay, I can explain it this way. So when an atom spins and you measure it, you can only measure it in a binary way. So it's either going to go left or right, up and down, or the like. So when you measure it, apparently you're going to create two different universes. This is the way it's explained, anyways. So when that atom gets measured, we've created two universes. So if you extrapolate that to all the different times atoms have been measured, plus decisions by conscious human beings, there's millions, billions of realities in existence, and they all exist according to this theory, like in bubbles all around each other, which is also known in the bubble universe theory, which is something a little bit different when you parse it to that length, where the bubble universe theory says there's all these independent universes. The many worlds theory says that they're all connected through choices, I guess. If you go backwards to the okay, so here's my theory, and this is personal, of course, something that I've thought about. I've read the papers; they're pretty interesting. Like, there's a man named Sean Carroll. I believe he's the lead physicist at the University of Berkeley of California, and he's the most prolific advocate for the many worlds theory. Very intelligent, way more than I am, anyways. And he makes sense. My contention is that the equations are true. I mean, I can't disprove them. I'm not that smart. But what I can do is propose that they're being done in the wrong order, meaning that with all math equations, you could just flip it and go the other way. So instead of going from one to many, you go from many to one. My basis for this reasoning is that that's how light works. So those of you familiar with the photon dynamics, okay, I want to incorporate time into this, which I didn't want to do because, anyways, I don't want to get into it too far. Okay, so you have light photons. Okay, light, before you observe it, like I'm looking at the light source I have right now, is it thought does exist in every spectrum, I guess, and then it collapses when observed. Okay, so I propose that reality works much the same way. There's all these different realities in existence, and they crystallize into what we perceive as reality when we focus on it, when we observe it. Now, the interesting thing about observe is that how could I? So I guess a video camera works the same way. It's been tested and it does. So like a video camera could be an observer. So the observer doesn't have to be conscious and it doesn't have to be able to think. It just has to be able to see. I guess is what the optimal verb would be. So that goes back to, okay, let's go back to light. So you have all this different spectrum of light, far more than what the human eye can see. Because, like I said in another video, the terms like ultraviolet and infrared exist, meaning that there's light waves outside the spectrum observable by the human eye. Okay. So all those light spectrums, are collapsed to a single color when we look at it, no matter what the color, everything from red to blue or purple, whatever. And then, so like I said, I think that's how reality works. Before we experience and are able to process and observe this reality, there's all these different possibilities that are out there, I guess, and they crystallize into one. So the interesting thing about light, so this is where I didn't want to go with this, but I want to have to, is that when you look at a light source, like a distant one, like a star, the light collapses all the way back to its source across time instantly, which is the basis for the what Einstein called this quantum entanglement, the spooky action at a distance. There you go. That was the quote I was looking for. Spooky action at a distance. So quantum entanglement, which is something that is so easy to explain and hard to understand. basically when you split an atom, the two pieces react to each other instantly across. Distance doesn't matter, time doesn't matter, meaning that information is limited to the speed of light currently, that no information that we can perceive as a human being can travel faster than the speed of light. But on the other hand, quantum entanglement works instantly across, like I said, the distance. So space-time, I guess space would matter because of the distance, but time doesn't matter. And it happens instantly, I guess, which is pretty crazy. So how that relates to looking at a light from a star is that I guess before we looked at the star, that light existed in every spectrum, and then we looked at the star and we've seen it in like anything from bluish white to some of the stars are red because they're so far away. Redshift is something. Oh shit! Sorry about that. I hit my door jam thing. um, Redshift is something that's pretty interesting. And it leads to something called the tired light theory, which is like light gets tired after billions and billions of years of travel, or I don't know. I guess tired is, I don't really believe in it. I think what happens, it diffuses, meaning that it stretches out, so it gets more red. That's why it's called redshift. And it's actually used to measure the age of stars, or how far away they are, or yeah, how old they are too. How old the light is anyway that's emitted from these stars. Oh, another interesting thing about stars, I might as well cover real quick. We're in most of the observable stars right now are known as second generation stars. So there was the Big Bang, sorry, the Big Bang. Then you have primordial stars, or what are known as primordial stars, which are the first stars to be created after the Big Bang. Those stars collapsed. That collapsed matter, or the resulting matter from those collapses or explosions, I guess it would be called, oh yeah, you get the collapse and the explosion. But so all the matter from those primordial stars are what make up the stars that we could see now, which is the second generation of stars in the universe. I mean, there's still some primordial stars in existence. A lot of them are brown or red dwarfs, and some of them are, giant dwarfs, I guess, red dwarfs. Well, I guess it wouldn't be a dwarf anymore, but giant red stars, stars that lost almost all their heat. So, what else? Okay, back to the many worlds theory. So yeah, I don't think we're creating multiple realities as we move across this arrow of time, which is the way physicists explain why time moves in the direction that it moves. It's just, it is what it is. There's an arrow of time, and that's how we observe it. Interestingly enough, though, like physics likes to break down when it comes to gravity, and what I mean by that is just like every physics model currently in use ignores gravity because, like math ignores the concept of infinity. Once you introduce the concept of gravity to a physics model, it collapses. Metaphorically and in space, quite literally. Same thing with math, like I said, if you introduce the concept of infinity to any math equation, you basically destroy it. Interestingly enough, as a kid, I always said I wanted to break science because I'm pretty good at breaking shit. Ask the women in my life. Anyways, though, back to the many worlds theory. So, like I said, I don't think it works that way. I think it's the other way around, where there's all this possibility and chaos, and then it crystallizes into one reality. So instead of creating multiple realities, we're destroying multiple realities by experiencing the one that we're able to observe and share. And yeah, so it's like a collective observation of space and time. I mean, like I said, when you look at a star, literally, it's light years away, sometimes tens of, like Alpha Centauri is 4 light years away, but I'm talking about like farther stars that are, the hundreds of light years, thousands of light years. And like I said, you look at the light now, today, and it collapses all the way back to when that star was formed. That stream of photons or whatever all become that beam of light. Um, and that's pretty interesting. I mean, and so, like I said, all these realities that could have happened with all these different choices, they all became this one reality instead of creating multiple realities. I guess that's another way to put it. Like, we created a single reality by experiencing all these other realities in an instant. And okay, I guess another way to explain it would be there's the speed of light, which is 186,000 miles per second, or whatever it is, which is called a constant, but that's wrong. But I don't want to get into that right now either. And then there's something known as the speed of dark, which is what kind of explains quantum entanglement, like that spooky action of that distance, according to Einstein. But this instantaneous connection between two different things, no matter the distance. I mean, I think eventually it's going to lead to us being able to observe what happens in a black hole, because somehow get half of a part atom into a black hole, we'd be able to observe the other half and see what happens to it. Because the thing about time, or the arrow of time, is as it approaches gravity, which is something I brought up earlier, it breaks down. And I mean, according to physics, time travel is not only possible, it actually happens constantly with something exits the black hole. So, black hole emissions. Should I get too into that? Okay, yeah, I will. Alright, check this out. So, black holes now have been observed to have some emitting beams of energy, light, whatever, particles. Interestingly enough, though, those things are time traveling. And what I mean is that you can only escape the center of a black hole by traveling faster than the speed of light, which has now been termed superluminous. I mean, there's other terms that try to describe it, but the one I like is called superluminous, which literally translates to the faster than the speed of light. Okay, so what I would say is time traveling those particles. Well, because that's the only way, according to physics, for it to be explained, in that relative, I guess, to outside the black hole, it probably isn't moving that fast, because you have to negate the speed of light, meaning that the gravity of a black hole is so strong it overpowers the speed of light. You know, it draws everything into it. And like I said, or I haven't said, but I wrote a paper on it where the event horizon is how far light could go before it gets pulled back in, and not how close you could get before you get sucked in. Those are two different barriers. Anyways, though, so yeah, I mean, there's time travel for particles that happens constantly, and it's pretty crazy, because these things that are coming out of the black hole, we don't know where they're going or what they are, but like I said, they are technically time traveling because they're traveling faster than the speed of light. And that's pretty wild. Okay, and I think I went too far off the track. So the collapse all this back to what I was talking about. The mini worlds theory isn't wrong. I just think it's in reverse. All those equations that you see on A.R.S.E.org are still correct. I mean, they still come. I mean, if you do the math, they work. But I just think you need to do it backwards. That's my whole. I mean, it could be that I'm dyslexic, but I think that's how reality really works. That we're collapsing all these multiple realities, just like the way we collapse light into a singular shared observable experience. I think I've gone on a little bit too long, because I want to start getting into some other shit. Anyways, namaste, good night, like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Good night.